Spring ball has started up, which means it's time to talk through a little bit of spring ball previews with some different people that know their teams very, very well. And my guy, Ryan Winters, knows his team, the Oregon Ducks, very well. Ryan Winters over there at Sports Chat 503. Go check him out. Love Ryan's show. He does a great job, interacts with the chat. Ryan, you put on a great product, man. How do you do it?
Oh man, just gotta love the game, JR. You guys gotta stay. You gotta stay committed.
There you go. There you go. Sports Chat 503. Anything else you want to tell people to go find?
Yeah, that's the main thing. I'm on the Duck football thing most of the time. I'll talk Duck basketball when there's something to talk about. Not so much this year. Throughout the regular season is the best thing to get me. And then Tuesday night live streams. Tuesday night 5:30 on the Pacific Coast time.
There you go. All right. Hey, Ryan, got a lot of interesting stuff with Oregon coming up this season as the Oregon Ducks do bring back a good amount of their production, their players from last year, bring back a guy like Evan Stewart who didn't produce last year, but is an incredibly talented player and could play a huge role in the team this year. But the biggest talking point is Dante Moore. So Dante Moore, he's returning. He was a top 2 projected pick in the NFL draft when he decided to come back, but he is somebody that needs a little bit of work, as does pretty much every quarterback in college football out there, even guys like Julian Sayin, Trinidad Chambliss. I think those are my top 3 quarterbacks in the country right now. But what are your key improvements that you think Dante Moore needs to make for Oregon to accomplish their goals? Anything that you're looking out for, kind of in the spring practice rumors and stuff like that for Dante Moore?
Well, a guy in his position, you can only get so much production, and where people are going to give you all your flowers and everything else. The guy had a really good year last year. He had led a really good offense. They had a good defense. They were one of the best teams in the country. And so, strike while the iron's hot. That was always the old school scenario, right? Well, now I think it's more about preparation. I think now it's about, I want to be able to be as prepared as I can before I have that opportunity in the pros, because now it's all about trying to get to that second contract in the NFL. It's trying to get to a good team where you can have some success early on, or it's to get to a team where you have a guy who's already there that you can sit behind for a year, maybe, and have the tutelage to be able to bring you in. But he talks about it over and over and over. It's about preparation. He's trying to get himself as prepared as possible, because in his mind, there's no preparation on the next level. You have to be ready to go on the next level. You can't sit and wait and try to get prepared there. You got to do as much preparation now. So I think the quarterback's best friend is always protection. You got to be able to identify pre-snap read. You got to be able to get your protection right. He did get caught in a couple games this year, especially against Indiana. A couple times that we saw there where there was a lot of pressure on him, and he didn't do very well in that pressure. He had a tough time stepping up in the pocket and avoiding the pressure, and the sacks came out to play at the worst possible time for this Ducks team. So I think going forward, he throws a really nice deep ball. He manages the offense very well, if you want to call him a game manager, which I don't think is that big of an insult for a quarterback, but his deep ball is on point. He's a clutch performer. He throws the ball really well in really clutch situations. The game slows down for him. These are all the things that are the reason why he's projected to be that. And his height and weight, his stature, his speed, all that kind of stuff all checks out. But I think the biggest thing he's got to do is work on pre-snap reads, understanding where the protection is, understanding where to put his guys into position so he can protect himself more than anything else.
Yeah, and what do you think offense-wise? Mehringer is how you pronounce it, right? Drew Mehringer? Mehringer, thank you. Mehringer's coming in. Obviously, Will Stein goes on to Kentucky and goes from there. I mean, Dante Moore, he's worked in several different offenses. He was with Chip Kelly, then he comes over here to Oregon. Now he's going to be here with Drew in this one. I mean, do you foresee the offense being a lot different? Do you think he'll be comfortable in this kind of offense? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's going to be totally different. Drew Mehringer was a guy who was a quarterback when he played. He's been a tight ends coach at Oregon for years now. He had a really good group. His tight ends group is one of the best on the offensive side, produced absolute studs. And I think he's going to be a great quarterback coach. I think he's going to be a great offensive coordinator. I think he's going to try to push the ball downfield maybe a little bit more than Will Stein, just being a former quarterback and seeing things through that lens a little bit. But they're still going to try to stick the ball in the running back's hands and run the ball as much as they can. This is a team that's always been predicated on the run. This has got a really good running back stable. They've got guys in there that can really make things work. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's, again, kind of a 50-50 split. Probably less on the screen game, maybe. Will Stein loved the screen game a little bit, extension of the running game, a little bit out of the backfield with the passing. But I would expect to see a little bit more vertical with this year's Duck offense.
Yeah, and Jordan Davison's the perfect running back to have back there with you. Good pass protector, good physical ability as well, and definitely somebody that they're going to be able to trust handing the ball off to in those different kind of situations to give a change up. You mentioned throwing the ball down the field more. In order to do that, you need to have an excellent offensive line. Oregon did have an excellent offensive line last season. Struggled in a few games here and there, but what offensive line doesn't? It's what happens. It's offensive line play. It happens. So you lose Isaiah World, Alex Harkey, Emmanuel Pregnon. Was there anybody else you guys lost?
That's it.
That's it. So what are your thoughts on, what are you expecting out of the offensive line? Different guys coming in. Poncho coming back is huge.
Yeah.
I thought that was excellent for the center of this offensive line. But just what are you expecting? Do you have any thoughts on who might be the starters this next season?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think Fox Crater is the guy you want to take a look at. He's probably going to fill that left tackle spot. I know there was a lot of discussion around Jordan Seaton and where might happen. We were talking about this the last time we chatted. That was kind of right around when he was making the decision of where to go. But I think Fox Crater did a really good job when he filled in for Isaiah on the left side. I think actually you might have a chance to see Manny Anacho start on the right-hand side. The guy is an absolute freak. He's really, really good player. Looks like he's ready to go body-wise. And I think that was always the thing historically about bringing in freshman offensive linemen. They just weren't ready with their physique to handle the rigors of D1 college football. And this guy's huge. And but I think you're probably going to have something similar what you've seen up front. Obviously, Poncho's your center. Dave Yuli's there. The left guard might be an interesting one. You were thinking it's probably going to be Kavika Rogers, but Douglas Utu might be that guy. Douglas has played very well. And so, again, you've got a lot of different things, moving parts there a little bit. I expect to see the right side be pretty legit, kind of a competition between Janoris Wilson and Manny Anacho. I think that those are the two names to kind of look for there. But I think Fox Crater is going to be a guy who's really going to surprise some people on how good he's been and how good he's developed on that left side tackle.
He filled in for Isaiah World when he was
Correct.
injured last season too, right?
Correct. Yeah, numerous times. Yeah. Isaiah being a real big guy had a little trouble with his ankle a couple different times, and then hurt his knee in the final game. Actually, tore the ACL in the final game against Indiana.
That's rough. Well, if there's anybody that I trust with offensive line play, it's Alik Terry, one of the best, if not the best offensive line coaches in the country. I've said that on here multiple times because I do truly believe it. I nicknamed him. You tell me what you think about the nickname here with college football. Sam, I was talking to him. I said, Elite Terry. That's what we call him, right?
Yeah. He's an absolute stud. And the young guys who've come in have been fantastic. Trent Ferguson is another guy. Put your name on. Zaire Addison, another guy. He's come on my channel, talk about his story. And I think the names just keep coming. This year, you had a really good class of offensive linemen come in. You got basically your future center coming in, same high school as Poncho Farrington over in Hawaii there. And you've got Tommy Tofi, an absolute beast. Guy's about 6'7", 380, just an absolute mammoth human being. And so again, I think the key concept historically has always been these high school guys, they need time to hit the weights. They need time to hit the meal plan to get right. And now you're seeing guys, they need to shed weight when they come into a freshman year. That's pretty outstanding situation for an offensive line coach.
Oh, for sure. And he's recruiting that way as well. He sees it and he knows what he wants out there in the recruiting streets as well. All right. Last question here, and then we'll get you out of here, Ryan. All right. So this Oregon defense is a lot coming back. Brandon Finney, you add Coy Parrish. I think the secondary is going to be very good. You bring back the entire defensive line. You bring back a good amount of linebackers as well. Bryce Betcher moves on, but other than that, you got a ton of guys back on this defense, but you do switch the defensive coordinator as well. We talked about maybe Oregon throwing the ball deep a little bit more on offense. I know one thing that fans wanted to see was some more pressure on the quarterback. And like I said, you bring back the entire defensive line. Do you think that the new defensive coordinator for Hampton, that's right, Chris Hampton, do you think he is going to be able to bring a whole lot more pressure and get more pressure on the quarterback and kind of give the Ducks fans what they were wanting?
I would hope, because again, I think that is kind of the elephant in the room a little bit. You have such great defensive linemen and defensive ends, and kind of saw the production go down a little bit from this last year to the year before, when you saw Mateo come out with 10 sacks, or maybe 10 plus sacks in one year. And I do think there's also something to be said about the system. Dan Lanning likes to have kind of some exotic blitzes, some exotic pressures. The simulated pressures is a big deal. I think it's kind of all over college football, but he likes to try to get pressure with four guys from a variety of different four guys. And it might not always be your prototype defensive ends rushing on either side and your defensive tackles rushing up the middle. It can be a safety in a late blitz. It can be a linebacker. It can be an outside backer. He tries to play it in a variety of different ways. And I think that sometimes a little bit that too much creativity can kind of cause you to lose out of some stats. I think that if you were to let your horses go in the same direction every single time, I think you're probably going to have some better pressures than what they do there. They drop back some of their defensive ends. They have some of the defensive ends go back with tight ends in motion, and they just do some different stuff there that, I kind of am a traditionalist. I'd like to see my best pass rushers pass rush every single down rather than them going out in coverage. But sometimes the offense dictates that term, and you're going to have to kind of go follow a tight end or even a wide receiver in the backfield, which would be crazy to think about. But it's happened before. Mateo Youngale had a great pass breakup in the Wisconsin game out there. And so again, weird things happen, but yeah, you would like to see a little more pressure. The real question mark, I think, is going to be in the linebacker core. Obviously, there's going to be some guys who are going to come up and are going to get an opportunity to play that position and fill some roles there. But losing a guy like Bryce Betcher is a big deal, and a guy who really solidified that defense. So who's going to be the next guy to step up in that role? You'd assume it's going to be Jerry Mixon. Braden Platt's going to probably get a lot of play there as well, but I think the linebacker core is going to be just as big of a question going into this spring, and then obviously into the fall this next coming year, as with that pressure. I think you're really good with your front four. You know exactly what you've got. I think they're going to do a really good job with contain, but I do think they need to get the pressures up.
Love it. All right, Ryan, man, you are the man. We appreciate you coming in here, talking some Oregon football with us. Listen, I'm not going to put national title or bust on this team or anything, but I mean, am I wrong? This feels like Michigan 2023? This feels like Ohio State 2024 a little bit. Is that what the Duck fans are thinking as well?
Yeah, I mean, you've got basically both sides. If you want to think about the aisle of the Duck fans, where you have the maybe the bandwagon fans and the old school traditionalists, and obviously I'm on the old school side. I think there's some common consensus that everybody kind of agrees that, or the next step is either going to the national championship and losing in heartbreaking fashion, or getting to the national championship and actually taking home the hardware. And I really do think that this could be the year. You gotta tip the cap to the rest of the country, though, man. Everybody's trying to get this championship. That's why spring practice is so fun for everybody. Everybody thinks they can do it, and there's no zeros on the loss and win column yet. I do think, though, that the schedule shakes out pretty well. It's a difficult schedule in places. That one big game against Ohio State out there at your guys' place is going to be the game of the year, and I'll be there. I'm excited as hell for that one. If the Ducks can move past that one and find themselves maybe in the driver's seat of the Big Ten, or do what kind of happened this year, where you lose that game maybe to the top team, maybe Ohio State's in the driver's seat, the Ducks find themselves in that first loss column out of the top four, automatic qualifiers that bye, and they do what they did this year, where they get to host a home game. I think you've seen it both ways. If you're a Duck fan, that's just pretty cool. You've had 2 years of the 12-team playoff, and you've been the number 1 seed and the number 5 seed. I think those are the 2 best places to be in. What would happen this year if you were in the top 4 with a bye? What happens if you're in the next 4 with the home game? I think a lot to be determined there, but I think a lot of Duck fans would agree. And that's very rare to have all these Duck fans on different sides of the aisle agree on something. But I do think they're going to agree that this is the year that we'd like to see them take that next step. And that next step is obviously the national championship.
That it is, and I'm a big Dan Lanning fan here. You know, I had my I was skeptical of James Franklin last season. I was not skeptical enough. Apparently, I don't think anybody was skeptical enough of how that played out. But I do think Dan Lanning is going to get his national championship eventually. We'll see if it's this year or not. But Ryan, thank you so much for coming in here, talking with us about it, and everybody will come back right after this. Be right back.